Hi again, everybody. Welcome to today's video and to a little bit of Wingman Wisdom. Thank you for joining me today. You know, when we look at our Google Analytics, now don't leave me yet. On Google Analytics, we learn a couple of things. I have a friend, Kevin Frazer, who has been on many of my videos, and his videos are always some of the most popular ones here on the channel. But the second thing we learned is that if a video gets to be more than about, 12 minutes or so, we lose viewers no matter how strong and powerful the content. Well, a lot of people want more of Kevin Frazer, and for good reason. If you don't know who he is the owner of Cheyenne Camping Center. Yeah, they're an RV dealer, but they're a special RV dealer, and Kevin is a special man. I don't know of a man who is more honorable, who is smarter in the RV industry than Kevin is, and he is willing to talk about just about anything. I found nothing that he's not willing to try and tackle to help make you smarter, and we all know that smart RVers make for happy campers. So that being said, a lot of you have said, we want more of Kevin Frazer. So what I have done, I've taken all 5 segments of this last time Kevin and I sat together and made them into one video. I know it's a long video, but it is filled with good stuff, nuggets of gold, information I promise you will make you smarter. It will help you prevent you from making mistakes. It will help you save money. And I think, as I say, make a smarter camper, which means you're going to be a happier camper. So while you're watching this video, if you're saying, well, I sure wish he would talk about, whatever it is. If it has to do with the RV industry, there is nothing off limits. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of these videos with Kevin Frazer. More importantly, what you would like to hear Kevin and I discuss. Without any further ado, as I say, let's get right into Kevin's interview. So the last time we visited, which was a couple of months ago, people were left hanging. They wanted to know more from Kevin Frazer. And I know that a lot has happened in the RV industry, a lot of changes over the last few months. And I wanted to get your up-to-date, view of what you see is happening in the RV industry, good or bad. We're all grown-ups here, and I think we can take bad news if you have any.
There's not as much bad news as I fully expected. We got some grown-ups in the industry. I don't know how that happened, but we have 3 primary producers. We got Forest River, of course, and Thor and Winnebago in their Grand Design division. My biggest fear was that after the boom of the lockdown years, that they would keep going and overproduce something awful like 2019, which led to a great dislocation. But also I've been getting calls from customers who are wondering, well, I just bought one in the last year. Am I going to see a total collapse in the value of my RV because things are overproduced and people are discounting the hell out of them to clear their yards? Well, Brother Michael did a reconnoiter last week, and I've got real information, real intel from on the ground. He picked up that some of this is verbal, but most of it's direct observation by him. It looks like, and I knew this about Forest River, though they tried to keep it quiet. It looks like Thor and Forest River were very careful in production in the 3rd quarter. They shut down everything that they could. They're still not producing very fast, but of course they don't want people to know that, so they don't tell even each other. So Mike looked around at the big industry production centers in Indiana and Michigan and found that the holding yards and shipping yards are empty. Of course, as usual,
Really?
Winnebago, which is Grand Design, did overproduce, but they're less than 10% of production, so it's not going to screw things up. The short version is RV prices are not going to collapse next year, and the RV industry was smarter than it usually is, maintaining a certain discipline as far as production. Production now is coming back slowly, and they're producing like 3 days a week. And part of that is supply. And there's good side benefits to this too. We are reshoring so fast, I can't believe it. All that stuff that came from China that caused so much trouble the last couple of years, they're replacing it with American-made parts as fast as they can. Faster than I thought was humanly possible.
How and why is that happening?
Well, you couldn't trust anything that was coming from China. The cost to transport the stuff across the Pacific went absolutely crazy. $30,000 for a container that 2 years before cost $2,200 to cross the Pacific. You couldn't pay for any of the little stuff. They were even producing Chinese furniture to put in RVs, which I always thought was crazy because it takes up too much space. It's all coming back into sync. Plus, China is not somebody that we want to do business with. They're unreliable. They got everything shut down right now. So our friends are going to get the business, and a lot of it's being done in the USA, and that's all good. Most of this going to China was started in the 90s, and it did result in holding down RV prices. But during the last 2 years, RV prices went up so much because of Chinese price increases and other national source price increases. We can now afford to make everything in America, and it works out the same. So this is going to be a long-term good deal. We're not going to see a big drop in price per se, not in 23, maybe not ever. To me, I know there's not that many. There's one big similarity, but to me, this is more like 79 through 81, the double dip recession, and we're kind of in the middle of it now. Then it's like 73, 74. You know, back in 73, I told you could buy a whole motorhome for $8,000. And I used to always think about that. I used to do a mental experiment. Would it have been a profitable exercise to buy a bunch of $8,000 motorhomes and save them, not sell them, put them in a yard, put them under a tent? No, it didn't work. It could never have worked because the price, the value of those motorhomes went up, but the cost to carry them, the interest rates were jumping then. You remember when they were real crazy at the end of that decade?
Right.
You couldn't have done it. So it made no sense. Once RV prices go up, I think this is true of almost everything except commodities, they stay up. So we're in for a period of very, very static prices. The competition between Forest River and Thor is mostly going to be on features and quality, and good luck to both of them. God knows what Winnebago's up to. I can't figure it out. When we were going through these periods, we had the big price increases. Yeah, Forest River was bad, but I think they were forced into it. Thor was worse. Winnebago was crazy. Their grand design stuff, I don't know how they can present a value argument. Now, what about for buying an RV or selling an RV?
Exactly.
Yes. You're going to see stable prices, put things off for right now. Now, on the used side, which if somebody already owns it, it's a used one. I'm sorry, you suffered about an 8% retrenchment in the first 6 months of this year, and we've slipped back. It's going to end up being 9. So figure 18% for the year they've come down. But they went up at least that much, and cars are doing the same thing, although they haven't moved as much yet. Be careful about buying a used one right now. The chains are underwater on their entire huge, enormous, massive inventory. The chains like Camping World and Bish's have already started these odd advertisements in heavy rotation. Come and make us an offer. They're on sale. It's an on-facility auction. That's all come on. That's all Barker talk. Forget about that. Somebody calls me up, a couple of them called me up yesterday. I want to get an older used motorhome. I want to get an older used fifth wheel. Don't do it now. Wait for it to settle out. Unless you got a compelling time reason, wait for it to settle out. Who has a compelling time reason? A lot of people who were living in South Florida. So South Florida is going to suck up inventory. Oh, and that has to do with new inventory too. South Florida, best guess I got, and I'm relying on outside experts, you know how great they've been. It looks like the hurricane in Florida is going to absorb about 60% of the new RVs that are in bulging dealers' inventory.
Wow.
What does that mean? Well, because of the aforementioned discipline that was exercised by Forest River and Thor, we only have, we made over 600,000 units in 2021. We're going to make a little over 400,000 this year as a whole industry. But retail sales of RVs are down half. Now, I know too many numbers for this, but what it means is we had twice as much inventory in September of 22 as we did in September of 21. But in September of 21, we had a terrible shortage of inventory. So did we overproduce? Kinda. We cut our production by a third. 30%. Our sales went down 50%. But in South Florida, if the hurricane really sucks up 60,000 units, that's 15. We're in equilibrium. There's not going to be a big inventory problem to worry about next year. It's all going to sort itself out, mostly because of the discipline of people that don't usually have it.
The RV dealers that I drive past, the lots, they are full. I know that the manufacturers have slowed down up in Indiana in their production, but the lots, the dealer lots are just full. And there are people that email me every day thinking that, I'm going to wait until the prices just drop and then I'm going to go in and get a steal. You're telling me that's not going to happen? Yes.
No, it's not going to happen. There's dealers that have reached their limit. Floor plan is what dealers use to the bank funds our inventory. There's dealers that have bumped up to limit and they can't pay for them. And Cheyenne Camping Center, we're just Forest River, but we buy the stuff that they offer us because it can't be bought by that other dealer that ordered it. The biggest discount I've seen in the last 2 months is 2.9%. 2.9 compared to the run up in prices. So they don't have to discount. Now, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing on these lots is Grand Design stuff. Something very odd's going on there. I don't ever deal with Winnebago or Grand Design, but the dealers are telling people I know, telling people at Forest River that they have a contract with Winnebago, with Grand Design, that compelled them to take goods that they either ordered a really long time ago or didn't order at all. And so that might be why you're seeing stuffed lots. Their stuff also went crazy in price and tends to be fifth wheels. So fifth wheels are a little screwy. And for that, okay, that 60,000 that's probably going to South Florida, half of that will be replacements for insured loss of recreational vehicles. Half of it will be to live in while you build your house, rebuild your house. That compares to 140,000 that went south for Katrina. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a bad storm, but they're handling it better. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, going back to the Grand Design thing, I don't know much about what you just said, but I'm getting emails and phone calls, quite a few of them, from people that are fifth wheel owners, Grand Design fifth wheel owners, that have got lots of quality issues. And I mean, cracked just a lot of different quality issues. And there are now Facebook groups that are out there with people that are all in the same boat saying, what have we done? We spent a ton of money on something that's supposed to be a great product. And again, I'm not trying to bash them. I'm just saying that literally over the last 2 or 3 months, I've had a lot of people that are contacting me going, what do we do?
Anything that I say regarding Winnebago product could be self-interest. I hear the same things that you do, and I could tell you some stories that would curl your hair. But let's not go there. What was their motivation? What were they doing? All through the lockdowns, the COVID-related stuff, they were go. They were bidding up price. They were stealing labor from everybody, and they were pushing as much stuff through their factories. Was Forest River and Thor guilty of that? Yes. And was there a decline in quality? Yes. And I'm given to understand that some quality declined considerably more than others. I mean, by division. Our crew was able to tame the problems with the Forest River stuff with a double prep, but Forest River got a lot more warranty claims in our pre-delivery. So it was true of everybody, but it was double true of what went on at the various Grand Design divisions, so I hear. Now, do I take anything in trade from Grand Design? I don't decline anything unless it's something really screwy, made by somebody that went out of business. When we get a Grand Design product in and rehab it, make it ready for sale, it doesn't seem to be any worse than anything else. But the stuff we've taken was made prior to the recent run-up in production, which I think exaggerated their problems beyond anything in the past. So those groups that you're viewing, they might be onto something, but that wasn't the only thing they did during the pandemic. It was the Grand Design product that was bidding for labor, stealing people from other plants, paying lots of stupid money. And I know that at Forest River, I don't know at Thor, but I know at Forest River, they slowed down production and took less production and therefore less profit so that they didn't put crap out that ruined their reputation. This was particularly true of Flag Rockwood, which was under constant pressure to get more out the door. But they held on to the reputation better than Thor did. And at Grand Design, they just threw it to the wind.
So when people say if it was built during the pandemic, I'm not going to buy it. I don't want one of those COVID campers. And they say that as a blanket statement. I mean, not 100% are terrible, but too many of them were kind of slapped together is what I'm hearing you say. Kind of.
Yeah, that's also true of a home built during that period, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
It's true of a lot of things. So if you want to buy something that was built in 20, things were fine. But by the time you got the end of 20, things started getting hyper. And 21, if it was built in 20, late 20, 21, 22, just make sure if it's an RV that it gets well prepped. Go online and find out if the dealer is okay. Look at his reviews and see. Because, yeah, we got some junk in, but our customers didn't know it. We caught it all before it went out. And during the pandemic, they had parts problems. You could find something wrong with a camper, but you had to change VIN numbers and deliver to customers something else because you couldn't get the part to fix it. That's solved now. That's okay.
What about dealers getting in trouble, financial trouble, because the interest rates have gone up? You know, they've doubled essentially.
Well, a dealer interest has doubled. You can call it from 3% to 6%.
Right.
And in the go-go years, this happens every damn time. This is what Warren Buffett was talking about. You find out who was swimming naked when the tide goes out. People were buying. In the case of RV retailer, they literally bought nearly 100 RV dealerships and way overpaid. And they did it with borrowed money, and now their costs have doubled. Now it's billions that Camping World carry. Suddenly, the costs have doubled. There's the big outfit that was supposed to go public this year. You know what the market's been like. Couldn't go IPO this year. So they're at death's door because they can't borrow anymore and their costs are out of control. All at the same time, revenues at dealer level have collapsed quite a bit. I'm afraid that we did see it coming. I could see over the hill that would be the sales decline recession caused by inflation, but I missed Mount Putin altogether. And so I figured we'd be down a third in sales, but we're down 50%. And that last part was caused by the freak out over the Putin invasion, which caused gasoline and other products to go nuts. We already had impossible inflation. But the inflation was caused by Putin. No, it wasn't. Milton Friedman won his Nobel Prize for proving that inflation is caused everywhere and always by the government spending too much money they either print or borrow. So we were already in a mess when Putin scared everybody half to death, and it's continuing to scare people. So the families left the business. What do families buy? They buy bunkhouse models. And so the bunkhouse models stacked up on the dealers' lots, and that's a lot of what you're seeing, bunkhouse travel trailers.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's exactly the units that are necessary for Ian relief. So that should come into equilibrium by the second quarter.
But you said that things are going to kind of level out, I guess. They're not going to go down a lot. But what about these dealers that are carrying all this inventory? You said that their cost of carrying that floor plan has doubled. Are they getting desperate? Do you see a time in the next few months when dealers is going to get desperate and say, I got to get rid of these things, or not really?
Well, see, that they're in a trap, aren't they? Because they got to come up with cash if they sell them below cost. There's some people that overpaid for their new inventory, but the real bad problem is on the used side where they grotesquely overpaid. When you owe more than you paid for something, you're underwater. And there's a lot of used inventory that the dealers are underwater on. That will probably precipitate the collapse. On the new side, you don't really have distress selling by dealers that have gone broke or are entering a form of bankruptcy because you got what are called repurchase agreements. The banks are aware that this is a dangerous proposition. If the dealer goes broke, the banks that are making the floor plan lending for the new RVs don't want to imagine a circumstance where you have to sell new RVs for pennies on the dollar, or the dealer has to sell them on pennies on the dollar. They don't want any part of that. So if a dealer is out of trust, which means they're going bankrupt, or they violate any of their other covenants, that triggers what's called a repurchase agreement. In a repurchase agreement, the manufacturer of those goods buys them back at invoice and then remarkets them to us other dealers that aren't in a bad way. And will there be discounts? Yes, but they won't fall off the cliff. There won't be pennies on the dollar stuff. Now, pennies on the dollar stuff, because they'll be needing cash for other operations, or they're in bankruptcy, that could happen to your used ones. Don't do whatever you want, but it's really dangerous to buy something from a dealer that is in fiscal trouble or bankrupt, because you can have tangles with the titles. Remember that if they're under a repurchase agreement, which every dealer that has a floor plan is, that title actually belongs to the manufacturer in the event of a default. So if you bought an RV from a dealer that was a new RV that had never been paid for except with a floor plan note, that means there's a fight about who owns the RV. You want to be careful about ever buying anything from a dealer that's in trouble or is known publicly to be bankrupt. Now, that's also true on the used side. And on the used side, there's so many things going on. Make sure if you buy a used one from a dealer, make sure you get the title when you hand over the money. And
I got to ask you that 4 months ago, I was seeing Camping World. You know, you cannot not see them when they run commercials every commercial break. But 4 months ago, they were trying to get the first time RV buyer. They've changed that, and now it's all used. We're the largest used RV dealer in the nation. I can't figure it out. Why would they do that? Why would they get the used RV market instead of the new market? Because the intrinsic proposition with the used one, this is the only used one like this in the world. And for a while, especially in 2021 and especially in 2021, those big dealers like Camping World were selling used RVs for prices similar to the MSRP on new RVs, when you know nobody pays MSRP. And how were they able to get away with it? Because there were people in the market that had never been in the market, and there was no way to compare a used one to something else. If Camping World's trying to sell a new RV to somebody, they can get online and look at other possible sellers like us and find out what it's really worth. But not everybody sells their used RVs like we do at auction on eBay. Mostly over the last 2.5 years, they were husbanding them and fetching huge, stupid money for them. So Camping World was out buying used RVs so that they could sell them to unknowing customers for prices that were off the charts. The market collapsed, and it collapsed a long time ago, but people haven't started talking about it until like April of this year. But when it collapsed, it started down in a serious way a whole year ago. But Camping World and the other chains apparently didn't get the memo, and they kept buying and buying and buying. And now they've just got thousands of units that they're underwater on. Now, you see an ad for Camping World right now. Come in, make us an offer. It's like an auction. Whatever you offer, no, they don't. They're using that to negotiate. Again, they're not competing with anybody but themselves. But how does somebody get financing on a used RV? Because the lenders right now are getting very nervous, as you said.
The lenders were, until now, relying entirely on that book value that proved that's proved to be so fraudulent, so unfounded, unsupported. Now you're right. Now lenders are very suspect.
So buyers are having a difficult time and even qualifying for a loan on some of these used RVs. Where I'm going with this, Kevin, is it seems to me that unless these people like Camping World or these big dealers that have got a huge inventory of used RVs, unless they get real with the price, we are entering winter time, which is traditionally not the best time to be selling RVs, especially used RVs. they're going to have to do something. I mean, or they have to keep making the payments on their floor plan to carry all that used inventory until next spring when it's going to be worth even less.
Well, when it comes to floor plan, used RVs are not generally on anybody's floor plan. Camping World
If they
claims
bought it, though, if Camping World bought it,
claims in their filings that they own their used inventory unencumbered by floor plan. Now, they did borrow with borrowed money because they owe Goldman Sachs, well, not Goldman, but they owe a lot of money to the people that bought their debt through Goldman Sachs. And that those are all variable rates. So their cost of carrying that inventory is doubled. When they were painting themselves into this corner, I was just shaking my head wondering what the hell they were going to do when it came to this point. Are they going to be able to slip this? Right now, they're playing the game that make us an offer, we'll take anything, but they're not doing that. And you say, but their lenders aren't going to loan money on it because they've been burned. Yeah, they've been burned now. So what they're doing is saying, well, make your best offer and then go see your credit union, which doesn't know what's actually going on.
What does your gut tell you when you're listening to people, customers, and taking phone calls about how's the public feeling about RVing today compared to maybe a year, 2, 3 years ago? Still interested in RVing, or are they too worried about, buying groceries? What's the sense that you're getting, Kevin?
The veterans, and this is just occurring to me now. The guys have been doing RVs for 20 years or more. They've seen it all before. Yeah, we're going through another one of those patches. It'll sort everything out. All those rude jackasses that were in the campground to go do something somewhere else. No, it's going to get better now. That's what I'm getting. When we go through a patch like this where everything gets run up and everything's turned upside down, I don't know if the customer's thinking about this, but what I'm thinking is that we're in for a nice period of dull, boring stability. No crazy stuff. And we're going to lose a bunch of competitors, but the ones we're going to lose are the ones that were bad actors. So great news, right?
Yeah, they needed to go anyway.
Yeah, I just hope they don't leave too much damage behind. Honest to God. I don't even know enough about too many of them. There's a lot of stuff going on. Now, let's just leave that one alone. The market's going to sort this out and tell us everything we need to know. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay, but you said that if I had an RV and I wanted to sell it, now's not a good time to sell it?
No, I'd wait till spring. Right now, you're competing with the ones you just mentioned. Make an offer, we're in trouble. And it isn't going to happen anyway. It's just not going to happen. You're going to frustrate yourself. Now, if you place an ad to sell it at a price that you want to sell it at, that's okay if somebody who needs it to put on their yard while they rebuild their house in Florida. That's a good idea. I can't say anything against that, but don't get enthused about the prospect. Don't think it's going to happen. And your trailer, the only thing that's going to sell for that Ian release stuff is if it's a trailer, a travel trailer.
Not a fifth wheel.
They're not going to want fifth wheels and they're not going to want motorhomes. So if you got a travel trailer, you might put it on one of the online apps. If you go to eBay, you will get it sold, but you might have to take less than you want. But that's how we sell all ours, is on eBay. And I got to tell you, even on eBay, things are way slowed down now. We're in a position here at Cheyenne where we're just relaxing, getting ready. I can't see next year very well. I'm thinking it's going to be first quarter. The first quarter will be over before people are breathing normally.
I kind of see the same thing. I do. Kevin, I've got some questions and things that people have submitted since you were on, since we did a series. And I know that you don't know any of these. None of them are really hard, but I'd like to read some and get you to respond. Can we do that?
Sure. I don't do algebra.
Okay. It says, hey, Wingman, Kevin said, and this is about motorhomes. You had talked very briefly about motorhomes. He says, this is from a guy named Gene. He says, Kevin said that they got out of the motorhome biz as Cheyenne because in a way, he said it was like they were ripping people off. Would you please ask him to elaborate more on the comment because we're looking at purchasing one next year and Kevin's comment got my attention. Thanks for your time. Love the show, Gene. So what did you mean, and what do motorhome buyers, especially somebody that's never had a motorhome, what do you think they need to realize before they sign on the dotted line?
A little bit of history. For many years, we were the largest motorhome dealer in the state of Iowa. There was a lot of years we sold more motorhomes than travel trailers. But then we got into this century. And the signs were already there in the 1990s. Motorhome prices went up a lot faster than other RVs. Motorhomes were getting pretty damned expensive. And motorhome sellers started doing things with financing to cover those expenses. And pretty soon, a 15-year note was quite normal. And then a 20, and believe it or not, 25-year notes on rolling stock. When a person was buying a motorhome from us, and we stopped selling the big motorhomes in 2009 altogether. We sold little ones, I mean really little ones, on Mercedes chassis for a few years after that. They held their value. In fact, they went up in value. But when we were selling those big motorhomes, it was a decision being made in a household that affected their financial future. If they decided to buy a motorhome and put it on a 15, 20, or 25-year note, it could affect their retirement plans. It could affect their ability to live the retirement life that they wanted, because you're talking about half a working lifetime on that note. And motorhomes are a lot more expensive to maintain than people were led to believe. You talk to your friends, and anybody that's sold a motorhome, they went back to a trailer or even a fifth wheel, because that motorhome just was constant maintenance and constant expense. So my brothers and I had a lengthy conversation about this back in 2009, and we were selling the best motorhomes there were. We were selling Newmars, and we did chapters. We said, well, this customer had this happen. This is what they did. This is how they enjoyed themselves. And then they were unhappy. And were they unhappy with us? Well, maybe they should be. So did we want to have a cadre of customers that were out telling the world that I'm unhappy, my financial future was diminished because I did business with Cheyenne Camping Center? Isn't that kind of like ripping somebody off? So that's why we stopped. Now we left, and our accountant said we left hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, but you know what we did? We'll just sell the stuff that doesn't affect a person's whole life. You want to have an RV, you don't have to spend $200,000 on a diesel pusher motorhome. Well, some people do, because it's for not owning or using the motorhome. It's for something else. And that's okay too. Those people should buy it. But those people should have the cash, right? And they shouldn't be, if somebody wants to buy a $200,000, $300,000, $1 million motorhome, I gotta hope they're not financing it unless it's strictly for tax reasons.
You know, I see people that buy a big Class A diesel pusher or gas, it doesn't matter, a big, expensive, couple $100,000 motorhome, and they're all excited, and they should be. But after a while, after a couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, and you still got 15 years left on your note, and things start breaking down, and every time you take it to the shop, it's 10 grand or more. It sort of wears on them. And I think that once that if somebody is watching this and wants to buy a motorhome, as long as they know that it's going to be an expensive thing to maintain. Now, I know people that if you maintain your motorhome and you're willing to do that, you can be a happy motorhome owner. And I love motorhomes. I just don't love the thought of the drivetrain going out on me. Transmissions.
Okay, the people that we sold motorhomes to that are happy, paid cash for them. They maintained it themselves as a hobby and did it with Q-tips. Or they were so well off that they had a mechanic on staff that took care of it for them. So I guess if this person's planning to buy a motorhome next year, ask him if he's going to maintain it himself as a hobby. But, it always has to go to the shop for something you can't do. And if they're going to have to borrow a lot of money to do it. If they're buying it and maintaining it as a hobby, and it's the coolest thing in the whole world, and it's what they really want, because you and I both spend money stupidly too.
Yeah,
they should do it. But we were putting people in keeping up with the Joneses products that had stupid notes, and that was wrong.
Kevin, that's what I love so much about you and your whole team there. I really mean it. I know we work together and you know, all that kind of stuff, but you are so honest and so helpful to people, and you just tell the truth, and you want to truly help people. And it's not that a motorhome is a bad thing. It's not bad for everybody, but it's not what most people think it is when they get into it.
That's what we meant. What I meant when I said to you, it felt like we were ripping people off.
Well, I told you this was a long video. If you made it to this point, I'm hopeful that you can see what kind of a man Kevin Frazer is and why he is so important to me and everybody in the RV industry. There's nobody more honest, nobody more reputable than Kevin Frazer. But I want to know what you think. Let me know what you think. Would you like to see more with Kevin? He's kind of camera shy, believe it or not. He really is, and he doesn't want to be overexposed, if you will. But every once in a while, I can talk him into sitting down with me. I want to know if you want to know more from Kevin Frazer, and even more specifically, what would you like to hear us talk about? There is no subject in the RV industry that Kevin will not speak about. So drop a comment below, or as I say, if you'll click on the word more in the description, it will open up. You'll see a link to a lot of people I do consulting work with, including Cheyenne Camping Center. But you'll also see my personal email address, my cell phone number. You can call me. If I don't answer, I've got 24-hour voicemail. I call as many people back and get back to as many people as I possibly can. So that's how to get a hold of me. But I really want to know what you think about these Kevin Frazer videos. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I'm Alan Warren, the RV Wingman. Be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home.